There's a lot of misconceptions and assumptions revolving around gap years, and most of the things you can find online aren't really good. Mostly, I think this is because most of the things you can find online are written by around 30 to 40 year olds who never really took a gap year. It's fine though, because I told you guys to send me your assumptions about gap years on my Instagram and Twitter, and you guys did, and that's what we're gonna be talking about today. The assumptions you guys might have about gap years, and I'm gonna address those right now. Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is Emiliano. I'm 1 year into my gap year. It's gonna be 18 months because of COVID and blah blah blah, and I start school in September. But yeah, that's what I'm doing right now, and let's talk gap years. So assumption number one. You're gonna go through a lot of FOMO, or fear of missing out. Plus you're gonna feel lonely, and you're not gonna have any friends. Now this one was one of the most commonly held assumptions regarding gap year, so I thought I would address it first. I think there is a degree of truth to it. I think you can feel like you're missing out or like you're lonely, but I think it's really easy to counteract that just by planning your gap year so that it includes activities that'll help you be around people. So babysitting, volunteering, playing team sports, etc. all are great ways to be around people so you won't feel lonely. And for the missing out part, I think that as long as you know why you're taking a gap year and you're actually doing something valuable and meaningful, you aren't really missing out on something because you're gonna do it next year. You're just doing it a year later. The next assumption is that it'll make you look bad in the eyes of universities. Now this one I couldn't disagree more with. I think universities love students that have taken a gap year as long as they've done good things with it. But regardless of what you've done during your gap year, I think that universities love students that might be older and more responsible, more independent, more mature, and have really thought about what they want to study and why. And these 4 or 5 things are what happens during a gap year. So I think universities might love you regardless of what you did. And then if we take into consideration what you've actually done throughout your gap year, then it'll make universities even happier. So for example, I want to study medicine. I might have shadowed a doctor or taken online courses. If you want to study architecture, you might go to different museums and look at architecture, or if you want to study art, you might have produced art. If you want to study at a bank or economics, you might have had an unpaid internship at a bank. And all of these things show a lot of commitment and determination to study and to become what you want to become, and universities love that. And even if you haven't done anything, it all depends on how you phrase things. So say you haven't done anything for the first 6 months of your gap year. If you phrase that as how you wanted to become a more balanced and complete person, and you had to do some introspection and some self-analysis, then universities will love that too. Now, I'm not advising you to lie on your university applications or to universities or college counselors or anything. That is not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is that if you phrase things well and truthfully, then you can get away with almost anything, and universities will love it. Our third assumption is that you'll forget everything you learned in high school. Now this is true, but it's only true to a certain extent. I think you will forget a lot of things. But this is not the end of the world, because I think it should be stored in your long-term memory. So if you just revise a month or two before you actually get into university, you should be fine, which is what I'm planning to do, especially with biology and chemistry. But also, a lot of the subjects you took in high school might not be exactly what you need to know for the career you're going to study. So for example, history isn't very valuable when it comes to medicine. So I'm not going to revise history, am I? It's interesting and it's important and I'm going to read about it, but it's not going to be something I'm worried about not knowing. Versus biology, which I have to know, that I'm going to revise. And I think a month of serious revision should be enough to bring it all back to me and my mind. The next assumption that really caught me off guard and I wasn't expecting is that you need to be well off to take a gap year. This one is tricky because I don't know what the definition of well off is. If it's rich, then you don't have to be rich to take a gap year, right? And neither do your parents have to be rich for you to take a gap year as a student. On the contrary, I think that a gap year is a great time for you to get a job, work, start that business you always wanted to, start making music and selling it or whatever. Just if you want to and if you feel like it or you need to, it's a great time for you personally as a student to make money. And then as your parents, they also have 1 extra year to save up, make money, maybe think about loans or something, before you actually go off to university. So it's giving you more time to make that decision and to be more financially ready, or at least to prepare financially for the big decision that is going to university and paying for it. Right, so the next assumption was really weird to me because it was that you have to go abroad. And really, you don't have to do anything, especially not go abroad, and especially right now with with COVID and the pandemic and everything. If you can and you feel comfortable doing so, then that's fine, but it's definitely not a necessity. So if you don't go abroad, what can you do? Well, there's a ton of things you can do. If you look at me or what I've done, it's reading, there's the massive open online courses or MOOCs, there's this channel, I've been working out, I've been supervising a small construction site. So there's a lot of things that you can do. You only have to look and be willing to think of life as a buffet, and just by trying things, you'll find things to do. The next assumption is that it has to be a whole year, or you have to take a 12-month gap year. And again, this is not true at all. Mine was supposed to be around 12 months. Now it's gonna be around 18 because I started in September and I graduated early because of the pandemic and blah, blah, blah. I know a few people that are doing 6-month gap years and they start in January. And I know of a friend that is planning on taking or thinking about taking 2 years instead of 1 year. So again, there's no real limit to what you can do and how long you can take off. I think 12 months is the standard, but that doesn't mean everybody has to do it. I don't think that should be a limiting factor for anybody. The next assumption, which I thought was really, really common, is that you're too old to take a gap year. There's no age to take a gap year, and there's no age to retire, there's no age to start working, to get your first job, etc. These are all self-imposed or imposed by society, and therefore these deadlines are all arbitrary or random. So just take a gap year. I think this is the best time to do it because we have the most freedom relative to responsibilities. I think this is the golden spot for taking a gap year. And if you don't do it right now, then when are you gonna do it? And 12 months isn't gonna derail your life or harm your career path to success or anything. So just do it if you feel like it, and I promise if you do it well, you won't regret it. The next assumption is that you either have to go backpacking or go to do some aid work or volunteering at a developing country. And again, you don't have to do anything. There's no checklist of things you have to do for it to fulfill the requirements of a gap year. And those are just very cliche or common ways of spending your gap year. And if you like that, if you're into that, if you like backpacking or helping, that's fine. But there is a whole host of issues between foreign aid and volunteering to other countries, etc. So be careful about that. But again, there is no do's and don'ts regarding gap years and what you can do or can't do with them. Now, the most dangerous assumption there is, or that I found at least, is that it's like a vacation, because it really, really isn't. There's this fine line between it being a vacation where you're not doing anything but relaxing, and it being a gap year where you're actually doing things and not being a couch potato. That being said though, part of your gap year can be a vacation. For example, the first month I was here, I didn't do anything but work out, read, and play video games. Because I had just finished the IB, which is really challenging, etc. And that was good, that was great. But then I had to look for universities, I had to study for admissions tests, I had to apply, I had to reach out to people, etc. I had to do a whole bunch of things. And even now that I'm already in a university enrolled, I'm still doing things. These videos don't make themselves. I'm supervising a small construction project. I'm trying to find surgeries I can observe, etc. So this isn't a vacation. You have to do things, and you don't want to be idle for 12 months because you'll get really bored. But yeah, that's the most dangerous assumption, and please don't treat it as a vacation. If you treat it right, you'll enjoy it and you'll do things and still relax. So find that balance and yeah, enjoy it, do it, and you won't regret it. If you have any more assumptions that I haven't covered or that you just came up with, you can leave them down in the comment and I'll either respond to them right there or make another video or a part 2 to this video. So yeah, thank you guys for liking, commenting, subscribing, watching, everything. You know how it works, and I'll see you guys next week. Cheers.